right? You can't go anywhere. I'm going to have to ground you. They're going to find out that you did something horrible. And I just looked at him and said, I'll hang out in the house. I won't ask to go anywhere. We'll sit around, play cards, and have fun. And he was like, okay, that works. And it was a glorious couple of weeks with my aunt and uncle that visited from Denver. And those were the kind of moments with my father where, he just went, okay. And I had the same thing with him, right? Where there were moments where uh, there was lots of tension between the two of us, and he was able to go, okay, I can just be with this. Um, it was just moments like that that made a difference.
So, who do you think had the largest impact on you as a father? Because I watch you with your kids, I watch you with your wife, and it's something I've admired about you, and I haven't ever got a chance to be able to tell you about it. But it's one of those things where, you know, um, you can see how much you love your kids. You can see how much you love your wife, and you seem to be present wherever you are. Although, I mean, when you're being, and I say it again, and I like to say it because it's a long title, and when you have a long title, you're really important in life. That's what I think.
Not true.
So, I mean,
Uh,
when you have vice president of innovation and AI for Cobra Puma Golf, that's a lot of words. That can't even fit on a business card. Like you have
yeah.
to have 6 business cards to be able to have that. But a lot of times, and especially the type of responsibility that you have in your professional life, when I got a chance to experience you on the football field, like we're there and we're watching our kids play football, and you're completely 100% present, whether it's the game or it's even just a practice. How are you able to do that, and what's the secret there, Mike?
Wow. It could be just being a dude, right? Have you seen the comedy routine where the guy talks about the man's brain is just a whole bunch of boxes, and we open up one box at a time, and we deal with what's in that one box, and we don't let the boxes touch. We don't talk about what's in the other boxes. We just deal with that box. I think I do have the ability to just be in the box, right? It's the football box. Now, there is the moment though when, dad says something to you and you got to turn around like, okay, I'm going to be in the dad box for just a minute. Okay. Then I got to get back in the football box. And I really, honestly, I think it's because I enjoy living that way and being present at the moment. It's more effective, brings you more joy. You can connect with people a heck of a lot better just, looking them in the eye and just talking to them. So honestly, it's a gift, God-given gift.
Yes.
Um, I did take some training. I went to, have you ever heard of Landmark Education?
Yes.
Yes, I did some Landmark courses, and that really honed the skills on how to be present and just get rid of all the other crap that's going on around you and just be present in the moment. It was phenomenal.
Well, I was so
Yeah.
excited to be able to have you on the show too, because when a person of your intelligence, a lot of times when you connect with a person, well, most of the time you can't connect with a person of your intelligence because their mind runs at such a high level that even just having a joking conversation sometimes doesn't connect. And I found this over time, and it's not for everyone out there that was the valedictorian. I'm not giving you guys all a hard time, although I am giving you a hard time. Is sometimes it's so serious or it's so intellectual that you can't. But you seem to have the best of both worlds, where you're able to connect with people on a cellular level, and you could sit down, and we're going to talk about the aerospace part and then talk about the golf that you're doing, the innovations in golf that you're doing, which is affecting every man out there that's listening right now. Like every single one of you, every one of you,
Yeah.
even the hackers like me that my friends told me I had a swing like a 90-year-old woman, and they told me that they compared me to Charles Barkley this weekend, which hurt my soul. They said my swing was
Oh,
like Charles Barkley. So, but let's go.
you need new friends.
That's what
Okay.
I'm saying.
Jeez.
That's what I'm saying, man. And this was in loving. They gave me a hug afterwards, and
They did. All right.
but help me with that, because when, again, the intelligence part, a lot of times people who are highly, highly intelligent cannot communicate a lot of times in social situations, but you seem to have, again, that best of both worlds. How is this possible?
Hmm. I'm First of all, I'm starting to get uncomfortable. You're gushing on me so much, I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable with the niceness, okay? Um, a lot of it has been I've been put in situations where I had to do that. I was at another golf company, and we were starting up a golf ball business, and there weren't a lot of people in the company, like 4 or 5 of us. And eventually the company grew, and we got to the point where we had to talk about the golf ball. So we had to go out in public and talk about why a golf ball works and how it performs and what's the engineering that went into either making the construction and or the aerodynamics, because those are both very, very important. And I was fortunate enough where they let me go out into the wild. I talked to media. I got to talk to customers. I went out and trained the sales force, and it was glorious for me. It was super fun. And I got to go out there and share about things that I helped develop with the team. We had a huge team of people. I was just one of the team members, but I got to represent it, and I was super passionate about it, as I am with golf clubs right now. So it was the opportunity to go out there and be with people on and discuss things that I was super passionate about, and that training was priceless for me, absolutely priceless. And that went on for a couple of years while I was doing that.
So, Mike, let's go back to the aerospace part, right? So
Yep.
you go in, you start in your industry in the aerospace part. I mean, how can you connect? Like most people are like, my passion is golf, and maybe their gift, and you're very gifted intellectually, and you go into the aerospace part. And most people are like, if I could even get into that in the first place, like I'm
Hmm.
golden and I'm staying in it forever. But you seem to say like, I have this passion, like I love golf. You started at 7 years old, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, at 7 years old, you
Yeah.
start golfing, and then you're like, "Wow, I want to mix the two." That is not like that. That's not a mixture. You're not like, "Oh
No.
yeah, aerospace, and here comes golf, and I'm going to mix the two together." Bing, and it turns out. Can you
Yeah.
tell us how this happened?
Sure. I didn't see it coming. So I'm playing golf my entire life. It's something my family did. We belonged to a little semi-private, mostly public golf course called Valley Oaks in Clinton, Iowa. And I played with my parents, played with my brother, a bunch of friends, and I was out there like all day, every day. It was the thing to do. And eventually, from an academic standpoint, realized how much I loved math and science and said, I want to be an engineer. My father was a chemical engineer. You tend to look up to your parents. My mother worked on B-29s in World War II. She was literally a Rosie the Riveter, and she was really good at it. Like, they came to Mary Pat, which is her name, and said, "Hey, Mary Pat, we need you to train these women on how to do this right." And honestly, this is a really fun one. She had no idea she was building B-29s in Wichita. She knew she was working on something big. And after like a year, they took her into a really dimly lit room, and there was a fully assembled B-29. And they all started crying because they had no idea that it was that big and that magnificent. So my father also was a turret gunner and a TBF Avenger in World War II. So I had this fascination with aircraft because of my parents. And I love math and science. So I go off and become an aerospace engineer. And I work on bombs and missiles at Chamberlain Research and Development in Waterloo, Iowa, and literally blowing stuff up. So imagine you're 24 years old and you go to a test range in Denver, Iowa, and you're blowing stuff up. It was glorious. We designed it, then went up and blew it up. It was so much fun. But I knew I wanted to get into airplanes, and I got my master's in aerospace engineering from Iowa State University. Eventually went to Boeing, worked on the high-speed civil transport, which is like a next generation Concorde. Worked on the 737, 757 from a production and sales support standpoint. I'm sitting next to Andrew Barr. There's people in your life that you remember their names, and you remember the moment. I haven't seen Andrew Barr in like 30 years. But he's sitting next to me. We're working on the computers. And he says, "Hey, did you see the ad in the paper for the guy in the golf industry?" I said, "No." I ran home for lunch, like literally ran home. There was a tiny little ad for the old people are old enough. You remember newspapers and ads about this big. And it was Max Fly Golf was looking for a test engineer slash aerodynamicist. And I couldn't believe it. And I sent him a resume and went down to South Carolina to interview, came back and told my buddies who said, "Go, go, go." The old timers at Boeing were like, "You're going to do what? You're going to go into golf?" And I never looked back. And I loved Boeing and I love airplanes still. But the opportunity to be an engineer in something that I loved was too good to pass up. And I have found that the engineering problems in golf are huge. Um, I'll go fast forward to where I'm doing now. Imagine making an object that weighs about 200 grams, can only cost so much money. It has to survive 3,000 Gs. It has to sound good, look good, feel good, and has to have the right resilience and the right mass properties. So I took that problem to my NASA buddies, like literally to NASA, not to slam them, but they looked at the problem. They went, "That's too hard. We can't deal with that." So here I am now immersed in an industry that I love playing golf. I love being an engineer, and I love solving hard problems, and I love working with fun people. So I'm in heaven. So that was the very short version of how it went from I'm an aerospace engineer to I'm in golf, and I just accelerated about 20 years from max flight to today. But in the middle of all that, I have found that there are plenty of engineering problems to solve in golf, like hard ones, really hard ones.
Well, it's amazing to me because in the golf world, we were just talking about before we started recording. We were talking about the sweet spots, and I find that in life too, right? And so there's these little tiny adjustments that you can make in your life that will make a huge difference.
Huge.
Can you talk to us though about the sweet spot on a golf club? Like, I mean, you were telling me about the fact that if you're on this edge of your sweet spot, which the sweet spot is so tiny, but if you're on this side, it's not going to hit well. If you're on this side, it's not going to hit well. But when you hit it right there in the middle, like, how do you guys actually find that out? And then how are you adjusting it from year to year? I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about, I mean, tiny, tiny, tiny changes that make all the difference in the world. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the conversation we were having specifically was on like where's the center of gravity, which is the center of the mass of a head. So let's say you got a driver head. The box in which all center gravities live is a tiny little box. Like when some manufacturers will say here's the center of gravity and we moved it down to here, like they'll go to the back side of the club. It's not real. It's the center of gravity is somewhere near the middle of the head and kind of near the middle. It's a little forward actually because the face weighs a lot. But the box is about that big, okay? About that wide, we'll say. And literally, Kelly, I could give you a driver that has a center of gravity on one edge of that box, and you would go, "This is the worst thing I've ever hit in my life." And it would feel horrible. It would fly horrible. Spin too little, too much, whatever it was, it just wouldn't be good for you. Give you a center of gravity on the other end of the box, you have the same feeling. You're like, "What the hell, Yagley? You just give me two drivers and they both suck." And then I give you one that has a center of gravity somewhere, let's say in the middle of that box. And you're like, "Wow, this is the best thing ever." And if I showed you the distance we move those center of gravities, you might faint dead away. You're like, "There's no way it makes that much difference." And it's true. It really does. And like the best players in the world, Bryson DeChambeau, Ricky Fowler, they can detect tiny, tiny little differences in the movement of that center of gravity, be it front, back, left, right. And again, the difference between, oh, this thing sucks to, oh, this is perfect. And that's inside of the box. That's a tiny little region inside the box. So that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with. And we use all that to try and make a club that, has a face this big, but has a face, a sweet spot that big on it. And that's a little combination of where the center of gravity is, the moments of inertia, and the resilience properties of the face. It's all sorts of different things. But I went deep on the whole center of gravity thing. Sorry.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Like it's amazing because I think a lot of times people are like, "Oh wow." I mean, for the novice, they're like, "Oh, I think these clubs look good," or they were at Costco and I was able to get a set. Now,
Oh,
right? So,
yep.
and this is
Oh,
where
it's
people
true.
make a decision, and they make a decision a lot
Yeah.
of times as opposed to what should be the top three things that you make a decision when you are choosing. I mean, besides me,
That's a
with me,
great question.
I should choose, Mike, I should choose the worst ones ever, like all the time, or borrow a friend's. Because if I have a
No.
swing like Charles Barkley, Charles, I want to give a shout out to you because you just got signed another contract with TNT, and it's the best show on TV inside the NBA. But your
Yes.
golf swing, when I got compared to it, I felt bad about myself. So
But I got to interrupt you there. Have you heard? I haven't seen it yet. Supposedly he fixed it.
he
I've
fixed
not
it.
seen a video. That's what I've heard.
Are you sure?
Yes. That's what I've heard. I have no data. This is hearsay. Okay.
Okay.
If this is a court of law, this is hearsay.
Okay.
And I have one other thing to say about that too. I heard that one of his basketball friends, told him that in order to have a good golf swing, this is like 10 years ago, 20 years, whatever, you've got to pause at the top. And so that abomination that he has of a golf swing is because some idiot told told him, oh, you need a big long pause at the top. And so he pauses and he just does all these gyrations. Yeah, someone put that in his head.
Oh
Now,
my
hopefully
gosh.
it's out of his head,
I
right?
hope
And he's
so.
got a good swing. Because I heard before that he had actually a pretty good swing and somebody messed him up. Yeah.
So tell me, like
Yeah.
when
So,
I'm looking for golf clubs or I'm
yes.
looking
Yeah, let's
for
get back to that.
tell me the three things that I should outside of it's on sale at Costco.
You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Oh my
I love it
God.
because I have
Okay. Hey, not that one.
I have
Not
the
that one.
vice president of innovation for Cobra Puma, and I'm asking about a sale at Costco. This is awesome. This is the best
Well,
in the world.
it's okay. Are you getting a new set of pans or a vacuum
Yeah.
cleaner? That's fine. That's fine. Oh, but don't go down the golf aisle for the
Okay.
love of God, unless it's a golf ball or a golf glove or something that you already know you like and that's not that critical. And I'm not dissing on Costco because I love Costco. I love shopping there. Costco provides massive value to consumers,
Yes.
but from a golf standpoint, for the love of God, go get fit. That'd be the first thing I'd say. Go get fit. Walk into any good golf store. It could be PGA Superstore, Edwin Watts. Dick's Sporting Goods has some of their stores has really good fitting studios, right? And go talk to a human being about your game, what you're looking for, and they're going to point you in the right direction. Okay.
Okay. So that's
Um,
number one. What would be number
Number
two?
one, get fit. Number
Okay.
two, get fit, and then number three would be as you're getting fit, they're gonna talk you through this. Okay, they're gonna say, "Do you like the look of this?" Because they're gonna be golf clubs. You're like, "Ugh, I don't even like the look of it for whatever reason it is. If you don't like the look of it, don't do it. It's kind of like buying a car, right? Or other things they just should be aesthetically pleasing. Your clothing, whatever it is, like you gotta like the look of it. Um, the problem can be there are times where there's a golf club that doesn't look good for you, but it is the one you actually need because it is big, might have a lot of offset in the irons. It could be something where like the fitter goes, yeah, dude, this is actually the right club for you. And you may have to swallow it. But for the most part, I'm gonna say that you can find a club that looks good and works for you in no matter what type of golfer you are. And the fitter's going to help you through that. So get fit, make sure it looks good. Um, you know, price is a consideration. You mentioned Costco or wherever else you're shopping. If you're looking at it going, I ain't buying a $600 driver, ain't doing it. Just not going to do it. Okay, because there are $600 drivers out there. You're like, I want a $300 driver. I'm telling you, there are good drivers that have either been stepped down because they're a year too old, right? And that's probably the main thing. So those bargains are out there, and the fitter can help you through that entire process. And I would say it's true for every club in the bag. Honestly, from driver to putter, talk to a good fitter and find out, based on your game, where you play, how much you're willing to spend, what your needs are, because they're going to watch you swing and they have you hit some shots. They'll be able to help you through it. Don't just borrow a friend's club. Don't do it. Jeez,
So
it's bad. It's a bad idea.
you would have loved it. All our friends got together for my brother's 50th birthday. It was earlier this
Yep.
week, and we were golfing in Vegas. And my buddy is like the Hulk.
Yep.
He's the only guy that I know that as we've got older, he's got more muscles. And he drove the other day. He went. I mean, I don't know where the ball went. We didn't even see where it went, and he lost it and went over a house and over a neighborhood, and I think into another state. But the second one he did, he actually snapped the head off of. He hit so hard, he snapped the head off of the club. The head went
Oh,
flying.
oh my.
So this is my wife's argument with a lot of stuff, and help us with this.
Okay.
Is as guys, we have two types of guys. One that's like, look, it's the Costco deal. And then you have the other side that's like, if it's the most expensive one, it's for me. And I need the
Yeah.
baddest club on the planet. And my wife, I remember going to buy a bike, Mike, when I first moved here to Carlsbad. And I walked into the bike shop, and they had the one that, the one that's built behind the guy that's telling you
Oh
about all
yeah.
the bikes. And it's up, and you could see it, and it had everything, had the wheels, it was gangster. And I looked at it, it was like, I think it was like 12, 15 grand. And I was like, that's the bike that I need.
That's my
And
bike.
I was like, it's going to make me faster. Like, you know what I'm saying? And she's like,
Yeah.
and the guy was like, I think he said, it's like 14, 16 ounces difference from the other bikes. And my wife was like, but your 200-pound butt is going to be on top of it. And she's like,
She's using physics on
she
you.
was like, ain't no bike gonna make you pro. So you need to look over here. Can you talk to that guy who was like, I'm gonna get the best clubs and then go out and just be the worst on the course?
Okay, so first of all, number one, do not take Kelly's wife shopping for you with you for golf clubs. Don't take her, okay? And don't take any woman, any friend, anyone who's going to be on your shoulder going, "Are you really that good? You think it's worth that much?" Yeah, don't do it. No,
Take
you
Mike
want to feel
with you.
good about
Call Mike
it. Yeah,
first.
I'll
Call
go with
Mike.
you.
One
Hell
eight
yes.
hundred Mike Yagley. That's his
Yes.
phone number.
Um, I will tell you that there are moments where it is worth spending the money. Okay, you go get fit, and I'll be darned. Like Brandon Dickinson is our fitter out at Encinitas Ranch. We've got a van at the end of the range, and he is an absolute flippin' wizard. I would send the best fit tour player in the world to him, and the tour player is going to turn around and go, "Wow, he found something." He found, could be 5 yards, could be 2 yards. A tour player can see 1 or 2 yards. They can actually literally see it. I've watched them do it. Um, could be consistency, could be a little better ball flight, could be something. He's going to find it. And in those moments, you're like, geez, this is worth it. It could be an upgrade to a shaft because we have our heads, but then the shaft could be an upgrade. And you're like, wow, I've done it. He did it to me. I'm hitting our stock shafts and I'm hitting them just fine, right? And then he gives me this $200 upgrade shaft, and all of a sudden my dispersion goes like this. It was pretty good. It goes like that with my 7-iron, and I got like 4 more yards. And he starts giggling. He goes, "Yeah, I wanted you to hit that shaft last." Um, and I was hooked. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in. Here's my credit card. I'll take it." Um, so I can't emphasize the getting fit thing enough. And it's not always going to happen that it's a $200 upcharge on a shaft, but I can guarantee you, you go get fit and they're going to find something like, damn, I didn't know I can get 20 more yards out of my driver. And it could be the head, it could be the loft, it could be the weight bias on the head, it could be a combination of that and the shaft. There's going to be something that a fitter is going to find. Now, if you got fit last year, and you got fit by somebody really good, but if it's been 5 years, 10 years since someone's looked at your golf clubs, guarantee you can find something. It's worth the money. Spend the damn money. Don't tell your wife. Don't tell her. And women, don't tell your husband. Don't. It's like I met this guy at a car show one day, and he had sunk probably $175,000 into a beautiful 1954 Studebaker Commander, and it was spectacular. And he goes, "When I die, I hope my wife doesn't try and sell this for what I told her I paid for this thing." I'm like, what? What'd you just say? Oh, life's too short not to have fun. It
Yes.
just is. Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you talk to us too about, I mean, you were at the top of one industry in the aerospace side, right? And
Yep.
then you jump in. Tell me a pinch me moment when you get into the golf side. As you grew, give us some of those pinch me kind of like holy cat. I mean, because most people, if they get a chance in one industry to be at the top, they're like, "Yay, that's amazing! I did it,"
Yeah.
or "This is amazing," and I get to sit on it.
Yeah.
You've done it in two industries and at the highest level. So, what was it? Give me some pinch me moments, and do you still have them today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have had many throughout my career. Some of the pinch me moments were just like at past life had Glavin, Smoltz, and Maddox didn't come, but Glavin and Smoltz came to a test center, and it was just a yippee skippy, holy crap, super fun. I can't believe you could help me hit a golf ball that far sort of day with you know two of the three best major league pitchers on the planet at the time, and I got to just hang out with them for a day. It was absolutely phenomenal. Um, And then other pinch me moments were a lot of them were like product related. So again, previous company developing a golf ball that was very similar. It was a Callaway Rule 35, and it was very similar to what was going to be a Pro V1, but the Pro V1 didn't exist. Callaway launches this thing first, but in the middle of developing it, we were working with tour players, and they were seeing phenomenal distance gains because they were playing wound golf balls. And if you're familiar with how a golf ball was made, gosh, now it's 20 plus years ago, a rubber or liquid filled rubber center, rubber windings, and a soft either urethane or balata cover over top of that, spun like you wouldn't believe. So you can control the heck out of it, control trajectory, but spin also creates drag. And it didn't quite have the ball speed that modern golf balls have. So we're developing a golf ball, and it has the speed of a solid core ball, but the spin of a very soft wound balata golf ball. And that's what tour players, they look at us and they go, wait a minute, this thing has the distance of a pinnacle, but it spins like a tour balata. What is this thing? And we would just giggle and say nothing. We didn't have to say anything. We didn't have to tell them a thing. They're like, what is this? And they look at their manager and go, I need to get out of my ball contract, like right now. Some of them would walk to the end of the range with their phone up against their head going, you got to get me out of that ball contract because I got to play this ball that's coming. It was multiple pinch me moments, and literally one of the taglines was hit it, believe it. And we just said, here, hit it. It was super fun. Then fast forward to Cobra Golf, and have had many moments just like that. Recently, I'll just go randomly. Like recently, we had a couple tour players and long drive players test some prototype clubs that might give them an excessive amount of club head speed increase. Not when I say excessive, noticeable. They can notice a couple miles an hour, and they turn around. They're like, "What is this? When can I have this?" And those are pinch me moments. We had developed an iron that was incredibly forgiving, but at the same time, it gave people a lot more launch angle and lower spin, which that's a not to be sacrilegious, but like holy grail of clubs can be more launch angle, low spin, high speed, and really forgiving. Like that's everything you could possibly want. And again, having players turn around and go, what the heck is this? My favorite though, honestly, and this happens quite frequently, is in conversations with people out in public. I'm like, where do you work? Cobra Golf. Because sometimes you're just like, I don't know if I want to talk about golf right now, but we always do. And the dude walks up and he goes, I have your LTD driver. It's the best driver I've ever had in my life. Did you have anything to do with that? And I'd say, yeah, my team did it, right? Between innovation and R&D. They're like, what? Or your wedges. Or I love that new MB iron. Or I'm playing your LTDX irons. Whatever it is in the moment. Because it's one thing to have a tour player look at you and say, wow, this is really good. They don't pay for anything. Hell, we pay them to play the product. But when somebody walks up to you or you're in the middle of a conversation, they say, I bought your Cobra driver and it's the best thing I've ever hit. That is honestly my best pinch me moment by far, because they paid money for it and they love it. And it's like some of these guys sleep with their golf clubs, right?
Well, they're
really
gonna if they take your advice. If
Yeah.
they take your advice and never tell their wife when they go and shop for golf clubs,
Yeah,
they
don't
might
do it.
They might
Don't
be.
do it.
They might
Golfers
be.
are so passionate. That's why this one of the reasons this industry is such a joy to work in is people really care about the product. It's not like selling a pencil. And I'm sorry if there's any pencil salesmen listening to the podcast, right?
That's all we specialize in. It's our
detergent.
niche.
Yes.
It's our niche. It's our niche.
Our niche, Scotch tape.
Yeah.
That's cool. But we're talking golf clubs. It's fun. It's exciting. It's people dream about playing golf during the week, right? Like on Wednesday, they think I'm playing on Saturday. And they start cleaning their clubs and hit a couple balls on Thursday and Friday, and then they go out and play on Saturday.
Mike,
Super fun.
how important is it to do like what you love and what you're passionate about doing? Like how important is that? Because there's not many people. I mean, I know I've been very fortunate over my career where there was shifts for me too. So I was in the professional beauty industry for 29 years. I did exactly what I loved every single day. I ended up getting out of the professional beauty industry and moving into this space with the podcast and the speaking and the writing. And I do what I want every single day and what I love every single day. But what I keep finding is that there's a very small percentage of us. How important is it? And what type of example is that to your wife, to your kids, that you're doing like when you talk about golf, like you're a little kid. Like, Mike, I love you talking about golf because you seriously are a little child. Like you're 7 years old right now.
I am.
And how important is that, man?
I can't literally, Kelly, my eyes are kind of watering a little bit. I wish that everyone on the planet could love what they do as much as I love what I do, because it's huge. It makes it fun. I had a boss one time that was hugely influential to me, and I've used some of his philosophies, quotes, mindsets. Like, imagine having a job where you're excited to come in on Monday, and on Friday, you wish it wasn't Friday and there was more time to do the job, the work, the invention, whatever it is, the innovation, the solving the problems. And that's what it's like. It's super cool. I, I will pray that everyone listening to this can have that experience because it's massive. It makes it so much easier to do what you're doing. And the cool thing is, Kelly, I am surrounded by human beings that feel the same way about what we're doing.
So
So I have like,
help us though,
yeah,
because what about the person out there listening is like, Mike, that sounds awesome. I seem to like you until you said that
yeah,
statement because
yeah,
I'm in a job. I have to provide. I have to, it's got to pay the bills. You know what I'm
hmm,
saying? And yeah, it sounds great, Mike, but you live in this alternate universe where you build airplanes and then you get to do exactly what you love and you change the sweet spot by like a half an inch, wait 7 years till it comes out, and then you're super happy all the time. What would you say to that person to be able to take the steps towards doing what you were purposed to do as opposed to what you think is bringing in the money right now?
great question. Um, the cliche answers would be, find out what you're really passionate about. Like, what is it that you really love doing? Um, it's funny. I didn't think you're going to ask that question. I'm going to answer it a different way. Um, Take the pencil salesman. Okay. Yeah, he's selling pencils. But what he's really selling is the ability for other people to express themselves. His pencils might write the next Pulitzer Prize article. His pencils might create help create some of the greatest art that's ever been done on the planet. He or she is actually like helping make that happen. Um, and honestly, that's part of it is selfish for me. It's like, sure, I really love golf because I'm a golfer, but as you were asking the question, I realized the joy isn't necessarily that I get to do what I want to do. It's that my team and I are bringing joy to other people,
Mm.
whatever it is. And you could find that in just about anything that's made. I'm looking at blankets right now. Those are keeping people warm. Um, so I think almost everything that's done out there you could find joy in it. Now, your question about finding the thing that really does bring you joy, then, and I loved how, by the way, in your commercial right up front, it says, you say bringing joy, and it's true. So, what really does bring joy to your life? And looking hard at that. Um, for me, it was people, and I love the sport, so I got to do both. So that's the first step I would take. It's not, and yeah, it's not necessarily really obvious. People are gonna have to look hard. Like, okay, what trips my trigger? Is it art? Is it sport? Is it communicating with people? Whatever it is.
Well,
So
Mike,
for me, it was,
you
yeah,
seem to have this perspective, right? Of when you've alluded to it a couple of times, and you've talked about the joy part of it. Can you define in Mike Yagley's life how do you define joy?
that's so. Um, I think the biggest one, the most obvious one, is the one I said about the consumer and seeing the look on their face when they find out that I or my team had anything to do with the object that is bringing them great joy. And then I can see it on their faces, like a big smile and happiness, and they're gushing. Um, I can see and feel their joy, and I get to participate in that. And I share that with my team, share it with my family. Um, to me, joy is also just um, like at work when you're connecting with someone and you can tell that you're helping them solve a problem because I'm an engineer at heart and we're here to solve problems. when you're solving a problem, you're like, ooh, I hadn't thought about that. And for me as a manager slash leader, a lot of times it's just about asking the right questions, right? Almost like a therapist, like, well, have you thought about this? How do you feel about that? Have you tried this angle? And getting them to the point where they are generating the answers, they are solving the problems, and you can see the joy on their face, which then provides joy to me. Um, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it it's a lot of times it's just in the moment. It's funny, one of the awards that we give, we have determination, um, we have joy. There's two or three others, and right now they're escaping me. One of them is joy, and I've actually won that award once or twice, because I love what I do. I love people. Um, let me, as we're speaking, let me think of other
Uh-huh.
moments where I can specifically call it up, where I can see it at work. Um, a lot of it's around problem solving. Like the past couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of work on the 25 and 26 um, drivers, and there was no joy in many moments because we weren't solving the problem. It wasn't innovative. It didn't look cool. It didn't look like it was going to give us a performance benefit. And in the past week, I've seen my partners in crime go, oh, actually, that is pretty cool. Hmm, there is a performance benefit there. You have increased the speed a little bit. You might just decrease the spin a little bit. Those things are going to give more distance. And you can see them going from, Yagley, this ain't going to be good enough to, all right, maybe we got something. So they're like on the edge of joy. Okay.
So what
So
would you
that,
say, Mike, what would you say
yeah.
is the difference between, because I think a lot of times people use the two words interchangeably, but they have completely opposite meanings,
Hmm.
happiness and joy. How would you create or in your mind or even in your heart, or is there a difference between those two words?
Wow. That's really, without looking them up, to me, the emotional difference between the two is like joy was like jumping up and down, and you're really, really expressing yourself. Like your team just won the Super Bowl or the World Series or whatever it is, or you just did something huge. Happiness to me is a calmer thing. It's almost a peaceful thing. It's like the potentially a precursor to joy, um, but you're calmly satisfied, maybe a little chuckle to yourself. You feel really good. It's just this calming, peaceful happiness. Joy, on the other hand, like I said, is really jumping up and down expression.
So
That's
being
yeah.
in the engineer space where you solve problems,
Hmm.
and you have this challenge, you revel in it, right? We need to find a little bit different. We're going to get into this 25, 26 because what he was just talking about is they're actually working on the drivers and the clubs for 2025 and 2026. We're talking, almost 2 to 3 years away. They're already working on that. We're going to get into that in a second, but I want to go this route because when you were talking about the engineering, solving problems, all those things, how is it that you take your engineering hat off when you become a dad or you're acting as a husband? Because when we go in and try and solve the problems for our kids or for our wife, we have the tendency to get a different result than our company giving us an award.
Yeah.
How do you do this?
Yeah.
How do you take that hat off and then go into a place? Because what I found is in my life and in my marriage, systems don't work with my wife. Meaning, like, I can't be like, baby, I found out the 3 steps on how to have a successful relationship and I'm going to do them. Here's one. I compliment you. Here's two. I did this. I did that. Are you happy now? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't translate. So tell us how you take that hat off. And because I've watched you and you're so successful, not only in your business, and that's the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast is because you're not only successful in your business, you're a phenomenal human being who happens to do great things in his work.
Thank you.
But we want to
So,
know how. So
so
if you could bottle this and then give us a system on how to do this, this would be great for
yeah.
us, Mike.
Well, just like all men, probably when we're in the house and the doors are all closed, doesn't always work as smoothly as you might think. Just doesn't. Oh no, no. Kelly. I am sitting in my wife's office right now. Actually, That is not hers. I put that up.
Yeah.
That's mine right now. Um, she's a psychologist. So I'm in big trouble, Kelly. Big trouble. I may need help. I may need a lifeline once in a while. If you ever get a text from me that says 911, you know what it's going to be, okay? Um, and fixing the problem, just well, actually, it's not just women, it's everyone. There are times like, I don't need you to fix my problem. Just listen to my problem, right? But it's painful sometimes to listen to the problem and go, I know the solution. I got the solution, right? And have to keep my mouth shut. Um, it's a lot of listening, a lot of listening. With the kids, I can do more questioning. With Kelly, it's not as much. I can't even sometimes ask a question. Well, have you thought about this? Because I'm going to get, of course, I've thought about that, you stupid blank, right? Oh, patience, listening with the kids. We took a parenting class before they were born. It was awesome. It was like, the first several years, it's just like keeping them alive and coaching and just asking questions. But if you see they're about to kill themselves, you got to jump in and stop it, right? But now they're 10, and so now it's a whole nother level of just talking to them and asking them tough questions. Well, what do you think about that? Do you think your friends were right when they did that? Do you want to hang out with your friends when they're doing that? Right? Um, I my daughter Emma is doing some modeling now. She's been dancing and she just started doing some modeling. And when I first saw the pictures, I looked at her and I said, Emma, you're beautiful and you're really good at this. Where did your beauty come from?
Ooh.
She paused. You know what her answer was?
Mom.
God.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Right? And I keep asking her. So I now I'm like, Emma, where did your beauty come from? God. Yes. Yeah, you could say mom, right? But honestly, little mom, little dad, little aunts and uncles, whatever, wherever came grandma and grandpa, right? But I said to her, I said, look, if you're really good at modeling, that's you. Like the ability to express yourself, because the photographer is asking them to give them expressions. Show me happiness, show me joy, show me fear, right? That's Emma, and she's doing a great job. But her beauty, she was given that, absolutely given it. And I said, Emma, I want you to, appreciate that and be really good at modeling, but know that the skills involved, the acting part, the ability to express yourself, that's something you can work on. But God gave you the beauty. Um, and same with my son, right? He's pretty good at baseball, but he's got to work hard at it. Got to practice. So it's a series of questions. So what do you want to practice today? What do you want to be good at, and what do you think it's going to take to be good at it? Um, and that's the easy stuff. The hard stuff we haven't. Kelly, I don't know if with you it hasn't gotten that hard yet because they're preteens, right? They're way preteens. So the emotional stuff, the potential bullying, the girls being mean and the boys being dips, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that yet. A little bit, not a lot. But even with that, it's just asking questions like, did that work for you? Um, what do you think the right thing to do would have been? Um, so a lot of questions, a lot of patience.
How are you able to,
There's a
when
lot,
let's go into the patience part, because
yeah.
right now you're working on a project that you're not going to see the results of, or not going to be able to show the world for until 2025, 2026. This
Yeah.
is, I mean, most people especially in today's society, they want to put it in the microwave and see the result immediately. They
Oh
want to
yeah.
see it tomorrow, like tomorrow or today, or the day that you do it, bang, like you see a instant result. Where do you, how can a person work that type of patience? And it's not just in their job, but I think that's indicative in our relationships with our kids. And I see this calmness and this peace about you, no matter what. Like whenever I see you, and we're picking up the kids, or I see you at FNL, or around the sports or whatever it is, it's you've got this calm and this patience. How can a person work that patience in their life?
Hmm. I was thinking about it from the golf club standpoint because the example you gave is very real. Like last Friday, we sat down with our senior leadership team and my innovation team, which included the senior leadership team included the president of the company, and we went through the 2025 driver. And we were about to move into the 2026 driver and beyond. And God bless him, he goes, wait. He goes, "You're about to show me something that I probably can't have for 2025." I said, "Yeah, I'm really excited about it." He goes, "Let's not do that today. Because if you show me that today, on top of what you just showed me that we can have, I'm going to want it. And you're telling me I can't have it." So we had to exhibit some patience there and separate the conversation. So we're going to have another conversation this week that is truly 2026, and he knows he can't have it. But he's probably going to say, "Are you sure I can't have it? Are you sure you can't make this happen?" Um, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get nerdy for a second. We'll go back to patience in real life. But the cool thing right now, from a technical standpoint, is historically, if you wanted a fully cast, because most metal woods, actually all of them, have some sort of casting on there, which is literally pouring molten metal into a form, letting it cool, breaking the form off. It's investment casting. And now you've got this rough casting that you've got to finish, polish, grind, all this kind of stuff. That process to make the tool, to make the wax, to make the mold, to make the casting, that can take months, honestly, just months. And it's painful. We can now 3D print waxes to make the investment cast mold, which greatly accelerates the process, but it's not perfect. The 3D printed parts don't perform exactly like what would be the production cast parts, but that can accelerate things. So the conversation we're going to have this week is going to be, okay, how much faster can you make this? Like, can you get it done by 2025? Can you get it done? Can you? And I think the answer is still going to be no. So we have to exhibit some patience. Um, so that part's tough professionally. So the way we do it is we just try and like completely separate the conversations. Like, this is tomorrow's stuff, okay, and that is next week's stuff, and those two don't cross, right? So that's how we're going to do it at work. And it is painful because even I'm like looking at it going, crap, I want this now. This is really cool. Practically would sell itself because it's an interesting technical story, gives you performance, and the marketing guys could sell this. We've run into it all the time. Every year, it's like, ooh, can we get that faster? Um, Patience, like around the home, and then actually even professionally, because there's all sorts of tough conversations where um, it could be business problems to solve, it could be financial problems to solve, it could be the kids stuff around the house. Um, Man, Kelly, I do all the stuff that they say to do. I take deep breaths. I focus on what the real problem is. Because sometimes if you don't focus on what the real problem is, and it may be something that's not even spoken, that's not the real problem. Um, a lot of just calming the brain. I'm saying that because I'm doing it right now. It's like, what do I really do? A calm, deep breaths, focus on one thing at a time. Um, Especially when the kids or the wife's melting, right? It's like, it's not that big a deal. But you got to be careful too, because if you say it's not that big a deal and it is a big deal, yeah, that that's not good. It's not good.
That's
Yeah,
death. That's death right
that's
there.
death. It's
That is
death. Yeah,
death.
yeah. So professionally, we have to separate things. That's how we
Okay.
do it. Yeah. Personally, breathing, staying in the moment, focusing on the big
What are some of
picture.
the things?
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's big, especially in
yeah,
today's culture. Rituals, and you see that high flying. Most of the time, high flying people have very similar rituals, or you hear of these things. What are some of the things that kind of keep you in line? Are you waking up early in the morning? Are you the early rising guy? Are you the jump in a cold pool of water, cold plunge guy? Or are you? I mean, what are some of the things that Mike does to be able to keep him on track as far as like actionable stuff?
up early before everyone. It's calm in the house,
What
right?
time?
Could be just I'm probably up anywhere from 5:30 to 6:30,
Okay,
and the kids don't start rolling out of bed till like 7:15.
cool.
So it could be me and the dog. Fabulous little guy. We'll go for a walk, feed him. I'll start by either reading the Bible or using my Bible app, which has a daily sort of meditation in there. I've
Okay.
got a couple meditation apps that'll just pop up. They'll go, bing, right? It's like, would you like to meditate? Why, yes, I would, right? um, I use in the Bible app. I also use some of the plans that are available. Like right now, we are in the middle of purging everything in the house. The problem is we're purging everything in the house. Like every room has something to purge, and we made the mistake of like trying to do it all at once. So there's just
Oh,
crap everywhere. We look like hoarders even though we're not, because there's just crap everywhere. We're going to get through it, but I found a plan in the Bible app for getting rid of clutter. I'm like, perfect. So my wife and I are listening to that every morning. It's like, okay. And the voices oh, for gosh sakes, what do you call it when they're reading along to you?
like the
It's a
Bible.
simple thing.
I know what you're talking about. Like the
Yeah,
audio book part.
audiobook. Thank you.
Yeah.
The audiobook part, right? He's like, he was reading a woman's article, and she's like, after my third baby, I found out that I had 10 baby blankets. Do I need all of these? No. Right? And my wife and I just start giggling, like, oh my God, we have 10. I'm looking around, we've got like 10 blankets. Do we need all of these? No.
No.
So, real calmly, no. Does my son need 300 Matchbox cars he's not playing with? No. Does daddy need 500, not five, probably 150 extra golf clubs that I've amassed over the several years, right? No. As a
Yes.
matter of fact,
I'm
no.
just kidding.
Kelly might need some of those golf clubs if we get him fit for her.
He's
Get him
got to
fit
get fit.
properly. Yeah.
He's got to get
Yes.
fit. Go down
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Tim. What was his name at
So,
the? What's that guy's
uh,
name in the van?
Brandon.
Brandon. You got
Brandon.
to go see
Yeah, Brandon.
Brandon.
Yeah, go see Brandon. So it's things like that that just help in the morning, that help get me centered. And I remember, um, man, it was one of the ones that I was either reading or listening to. It was very convicting. It's like, so in the morning, you will find out what's most important to you when you like that's what you do. I'm like, I would go to ESPN. Oh, great. God's
Uh huh.
not that important, but ESPN is, right?
Oh yeah.
Or you know that I bought an old Studebaker, right? For a long time I was hunting for a Studebaker, right? Before I would read the Bible or listen to a verse, right? Like, okay, Michael, that's just not quite right. And I have found that if I do it what I think is the right way in the morning, calm, read or be read to, it makes the whole day better. Everything's calmer, everything's more peaceful. I can stay more centered, I can be more present. And in being more present, I get to either have more joy, I get to feel more joy, I get to share more joy, right? Just by being present. So that's why I start that way in the mornings.
So,
Yeah.
Mike,
What?
how can you have
Yeah.
practical application? Because a lot of times you just mentioned something I want to go to it is you were talking about reading the Bible, and I mean it's like you see it in you, and I know like a person who understands it, like I see it, like I see that light in you. But there's a lot of people that are like, I don't understand, and I can't practically apply the Bible because there's the thou and the are and the blah 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 blah. And it was good 2,000 years ago, but it doesn't really apply. But it seems like you're actually applying the principles. How can a person do this and begin to apply the principles, that were written 2,000 years ago or written in a language that isn't ESPN language?
So I'm going to look up which one I have right now. It's the app I have is called the Holy Bible, and they have numerous practical applications. Like they're just coming at you over and over and over. And like I said, I'm going to look down right now. Um, the one I have, it's called Decluttering the Soul. Okay, so it sounds very spiritual, but it's very practical. Like they immediately go into your house full of crap, right? And how are you going to deal with this? And it is a devotional, and then there are a couple of readings, anywhere from 1 to 4 readings that from the Bible that apply to whatever it is the plan you're diving into. So you asked about like how you can do it. It's a very, very practical way to apply, like you said, something was written 2,000 years ago, but they're words of wisdom for 2,000 years ago, but apply them to 2022, right? And it works. I've done dozens of plans around parenting and happiness with your spouse and finance, and in this case, decluttering the soul. Actually, I've got like 3 plans going right now. I'll tell you what they are. Um, Survival gear for dads, practical. Showing up, loving others like Jesus does, and a fully connected marriage. Isn't that nice? So
Wow.
I've got work stuff, I've got house stuff, I got kid stuff, I got husband and wife stuff, and it's really easy. It's a phenomenal app. So that's how someone could get connected with the word in a practical sense.
Well, it's amazing
And
too because if someone goes back and listens and they listen to you at all, they hear the joy in you. It's like there's a lot of the question of like, okay, how, because that's where people get caught up, right?
yeah,
They get caught up in that part. But then when you hear about what the things that you're doing, there's no wonder why you're succeeding in those areas. Does that make sense? And
sure.
so
Yeah, it's not.
how though this is always a question for me is how though can you make sure and extract the reason why you're doing it from the system, because a lot of times people give the credit to the
Yep.
system, right?
Yep.
I'm doing this,
Yeah.
so if you do this it'll work out, but they don't add to the fact that you actually believe in that thing, right? So
Yeah.
and when it goes back to the, when I was saying like you systemize your marriage, you just do the 1 2s and the 3s, and I've tried this before.
You're golden. Yeah.
So help me to understand how are you able to continually separate and make sure that the rules that you have or the systems that you have don't become the religion part of it of I'm just doing these things because I did them before.
Great question. Um, I hate to say the answer is in the question, but I do have to question myself. Like when I am going to go into one of the plans or one of the programs, I'm like, why am I really doing this? Okay. Am I doing this as a means to an end that is not something that's going to support my wife, my kids, my relationship with God? Or am I doing this just because I think it's, the right mechanical thing to do? So I have to really dive into the the purpose, the goal. Like what am I and the people in my life going to truly get from this? Um, and I found when I ask myself that question, there are times I'm like, yeah, not that one. Ain't gonna do that one. That one's not gonna. It's not gonna fit. Helping my relationship with God or my wife or the kids. Um, that one's not gonna cut it. And I would also say, you and I both go to Daybreak Church, and being around a bunch of people that really believe in God and the message that comes from the pastors there and the men's groups. I've joined a men's group there. So then you've got some structure, right? Then you've got guys that are like holding you to account. Hey, Mike, you said you're going to do this. Did you do it? Well, no, I didn't quite get that done. I'm really sorry. I was a bad human being, right? But they're there. They're like keeping you to account, and that really, really helps. So that's some of the structural and mental check-in things that I do.
Well, let's talk about that too for a second because men's group have really changed my life. Whether it be because I have a spiritual men's group that I do and I host here. I also go to I do men's groups with entrepreneurs, right? And so it's not as much faith based. Obviously, if you believe something, those things are going to come out. So with you, it resonates no matter what. But talk to the importance of a men's group, like whether you're in a spiritual sense or not, because this really, really changed my life, and I wish I would have found out about it earlier. What you said, the accountability part of it. What are some of the other aspects for you that have really resonated with you with the men's groups?
That I am not alone in some of the stuff that's going on in my life, right? Could be issues with the missus, could be finances, could be crap going on at work, the kids, whatever it is, right? I'm sitting there wallowing, not necessarily wallowing, but I'm grinding on, oh crap, I got to solve this, got to solve this, got to solve this. And like, I'm the only one with this problem. And then you sit down with the guys and you find out, okay, almost everybody has similar problems. And then somebody's going to whip out some problems that are way, way bigger than anything I'm dealing with. You're like, holy crap, dude, let me pray for that. The latter part gives you perspective. Like, yeah, my life's not that bad. And two, there is um, the what's the word I'm looking for with a bunch of guys. The communion, the camaraderie, the connection with other men, where you're like, oh, you guys are going through the same thing, and here's what you did, because a lot of guys have already been through it. I went through that, right? Your kid's 10, my kid's 15. Let me tell you what happened when they were 11. You're like, oh, thank you, thank you, because we're not alone in the world. And we don't have to do it alone. There's a whole bunch of good people out there that can share things and perspectives and potential solutions to problems. Not it may not be your solution, but potential solutions to problems, and that's what these guys have. And it's and they're all good Christian men, right? So that's your foundation, and all of them, to a man, are willing to share and to help. So it's a I've been in two different groups, and both of them have been just phenomenal for that reason.
Help us to understand too. One of my friends, his name is Peter Anthony, and is a really, really awesome individual. He always talks about the fact that that the way that you do one thing is the way you do everything. And listening to you today and having this conversation with you, it seems to me that rings true with you more than most of the people that I talk to. The way in which you're doing one thing. So let's talk about your work, the patience that you have to, like, I don't know that I would have the patience to be able to work on something that I couldn't see the result of till 2025. I mean, I have seriously, I'm like,
Yep.
it's Tuesday right now. And I'm like Friday would be a tough one. That would be, you know what I mean? Cause I'm going to give it
I
to
hear
you
you.
now.
I hear you.
So you work in that patience part of it. You're also dealing in an industry where, I mean, centimeters, if not millimeters, make the world of difference, right?
It's
And
fractions of a millimeter, by the
okay,
way.
so exactly. Thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks for making me feel, yeah, way to go.
No,
I
no,
don't
it's
know if
okay.
I'm
You
going to be
didn't
that
know
good of
that.
friends with you anymore.
You didn't know.
Fractions of millimeters, guys,
Yeah.
makes the difference between yards of yards, if not tens of yards of performance. This is massive, and
Yeah.
you're also applying that in your marriage, and you're applying that in your with your kids too, where it's fractions. You're asking questions of your kids. You're not asking those questions of your wife. You're just listening because
Oh
that
yeah.
when you ask the question. So
You got to get whacked. Yeah.
how can a person start to align, right? Because for you, with your engineering background, you understand that fraction of a millimeter makes that much of a difference, and a lot of us don't understand or understand how to take those little tiny fractions in our life that will change the complete trajectory of whether it be our work or our marriage or our kids. How do you articulate that to someone and help them to understand the importance of those small fractions of millimeter changes?
Um, I would say to use their imagination, because that's what we do, right? We look at um, what could be, and we know that it could take a long time to get there. But um, let's say, because I think you used the word trajectory, which is a great
Mm-hmm.
word for golf. Okay. If we do something that could affect the launch condition by a half a degree, left, right, downrange, that could be 10 yards. Go 2 or 3 degrees, could be 10, 15, 20 yards. Um, it's being able to see what you're doing right now could look like years down the road. And we do that a lot. One of my engineers, Ryan, is really good at, okay, everybody close their eyes and picture a world where when you get fit for a golf club, and I'm not going to finish the sentence because it's one of the things we're working on that's really, really cool. But imagine this available to you sometime in the future. And so the ability to see what the impact of what you're doing right now, and a lot of times it's like, I'd even go the other way. Picture what you want in the future, and it's very different from what you have right now, and then go backwards in time and go, okay, if, you know, financially, if I want to have $1 million 10 years from now, okay, then what's that going to look like? And when am I going to have 750,000 and what's that's going to look like? This is probably a bad example, but like going backwards in time and saying, okay, what's it going to take for us to make a driver for Kelly that has a sweet spot this big in 2026? Okay. And at first, you're going to go, can't be done. And then the engineers are going to go, actually, it can be done. We're going to give him a massive amount of moment of inertia. We're going to do this to the face. We're going to put CG here. And we'd all say, we can't do that right now. But what's it going to take to get us there? So I went both ways. I went, what do you want as an end state? And then look back to like, okay, right now, what do I have to do to get towards that end state? Or if you're doing something, where do you think the end state's going to be? So you can go either way. And we do both at work. Um, a little bit of both. We do, what can we do right now? We do, what can we have 5 years from now? Um, that's how I would, develop the way to have the insight of, okay, what's it going to take? What's the impact? What do I have to do along the way? And then ultimately, what's the prize at the end? Um, and as you have said several times, we're that 2026 driver, right? We think we're dialing up something that's really flipping cool.
It's going to
Really
blow
cool.
our mind, right?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
can't say anything about it though, Mike, right?
No. But I will tell you that from Cobra Golf in 2023, 2024, and 2025, you're still going to get some damn good golf clubs. You don't have to wait till 2026. You don't. Yeah.
But our mind will be blown in 2023 because that was already worked on 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we're
was.
going to be blown away in 2024 because that was 3 years before that.
Yep.
And 2026, what you're working on right now, is some mind-blowing stuff.
It is. It's funny sometimes, and you see it with all products, right? Sometimes we call like aggregate incrementalism. We've made little tweaks to things that make big difference. When you add it up, it's like, wow, you really notice that. And there are other times we bring out something that's just freaking revolutionary. Like, wow, never saw that before. And so we do both things. We improve what we have, and then we're working on things you've never seen before.
What makes you jump out of your skin more, the incremental or the monumental, like blow your brains out stuff?
Probably the monumental, but I will tell you that there's been a couple of times where we've incrementalized our way into a significant performance advantage. There was a little bit of aerodynamics, a little bit of mass properties, a little bit of resilience, and the damn thing was really, really good. Even this, okay, tears of joy. We knew it was good, but then we launch it and people are telling us it's even better than we thought it was. That's one that's really fun. Like, your driver's so good. Like, I can't beat your driver with any other competitor's driver. I'm like, damn, we knew it was going to be good. We didn't know it was going to be that good. That's when it's fun. Yeah.
So help me to understand too, Mike, when you're a superhero like you are, right? And, like people listening to you and you're like, oh, I'm gushing. No, I'm not gushing. I'm just telling the truth. And it's like the more layers that you peel back, the more you like Mike. So what does Mike struggle with? Because if you were listening to you, like, and believe me, when you listen back to this, you'll want to share it with your wife because you'll be like, I'm the man. Like, I am it, wife. You should listen to this. But I think a lot of times we connect more with the fact that we see a human being in front of us. And I mean, I know you're a human being. What do you struggle with, man?
It's funny you just mentioned her. Like connecting with Kelly. Yeah, my wife, not you. Not you, Kelly. Just for all you listeners, okay? He and I are not in a committed relationship, okay?
Not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet. Not yet.
I love
close.
him that much, though. If he could fit me and get me out of this Charles Barkley swing, the old Charles Barkley, and I could start hitting the ball farther than 30 yards, I think Mike might be my man. Is what it is.
I'm going to be your man then. I'm going to be your daddy is what I'm going to be. Oh.
So tell me about that, man. You said as far as a connection point and struggling, because I mean, this is we just talked about it just recently. Tim Grover talked about it in his books, and he talks about, when a guy is high flying in one area, a lot of times they're deficient in another. Right.
Yeah.
And he said it's okay. And I was just talking with some kids recently, actually right before I got on the podcast, and they asked me about mentorship. And I said, well, I think there should be 4 parts of mentorship. One is a professional. One is a personal mentor. Next one is a spiritual mentor. Next one is a financial mentor. If you could find the quadfecta, that's the greatest mentor of all time, which most likely his name, he would be wearing sandals, wearing a white robe, and have 12 dudes following him. That's who that would be.
Oh, yeah.
And I told him, I said, if you could find the quadfecta, tell me, because I want to know that person too. But finding a mentor, is the person, find one personal, find one professional, find one spiritual, find one financial, and have it, and a mentorship. For those of you out there listening, make sure that it's active, because a mentorship is active. It's two-way. Idolatry is one way, meaning I look at this person, I think they're the greatest, or I have no touch with them. Mentorship is, there's a mentor that has wisdom and has experience. There's a mentee who asks questions. The mentor will answer the question, and then the mentee will add action to that answer that the mentor gave, and then bring back the results. And then they'll ask another question. This is a mentor relationship, but please stop using the word mentor unless that's happening. If you're simply looking at someone saying, Mike is my mentor, but I don't connect with him, that's simply an idol, and it's only one way. So
Yep.
talk to us about that. Like when you were saying the struggle part as far as the connection point, help us with that. Where do you struggle?
I told you with the misses,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on like connecting at a very, like, I'd almost say calm, being able to sit down, talk about whatever. Could be sports, could be Housewives of Beverly Hills, right? I'm going to the extremes, right? You can guess which one I want to talk about, which one she wants to talk about, right? And being able to just like meet in the middle and have a good conversation. She can get pretty wrapped up with the kids and their health and making sure everything's perfect for the kids. And I'm like, they're fine, right? Ironically, they're coming home from the doctor right now. And I said, don't take them in. She just texted me a little bit ago and said, well, he's got an earache and she's got a bronchitis. I'm like, oh, and daddy wouldn't have taken him in. So my response is, you're right again. You're right again. But just being able to really connect with her, because I miss that. We had it. We just don't have it right now. And we need to work on that. So that's a huge one. And the mentoring there could be in the form of, we've got some really good friends that are very good at coaching and relationships, therapy, because the therapist is going to do exactly what you just described, right? Ask the question, okay, what are you going to do? Come back, 3 weeks later, did you do it? Um, but yeah, that's probably my biggest one right now. And
What do
it,
you
it
what do you
hurts.
what do
It
you think
hurts.
what
Yeah.
do you think that your wife doesn't hear enough from Mike Yagley?
How much I love her, how much I respect her, how much I appreciate, and that she never says those two. What she says is, you don't appreciate what I do around the house. And I think I say it all the time, right? Like, honey, I really appreciate what you do around the house. Clearly, I'm not saying it enough. Clearly. Um, yeah, that's probably the biggest one because she vocalizes it. Yeah.
If you got a chance, if she was sitting right in front of you right now, like what would you say to her as far as like this is the this is the thing that I want you to know, that a lot of times maybe I can't articulate, or that it
Yeah.
doesn't come out as well, because most guys, as we know, I mean, sometimes our words don't, when we're dealing
Yeah.
systematically, right? If we gave you a
Yeah.
challenge to, fix my 30-yard golf swing, you were like, I got you, bro.
I can do that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
got the physics to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. This isn't, this isn't math. It's not physics, right? Oh no. No, this isn't those kind of things. Yeah. Um, I would, not to make the children the focal of it, but I tell you what, our children, I'm going to gush on them, are spectacular.
Hmm.
And that's her. That is, I'm not going to say it's all her because that's naive, but there's God, there's a little bit of me, there's the rest of the environment, but a big chunk of that is mama. Let's face that.
Hmm.
And they are really good little people. I had a woman, I'm going to go off on a tangent for just a second. So Em and I went to the um, downtown Vista trunk or treat with our car, that 54 Studebaker we've got,
Yeah.
and dressed the car up, put skeletons in it. I dressed up as the Tin Man. She was Dorothy. We had our little terrier who looks enough like Toto that about 50, I'll say 20 people said, can I get a picture with your daughter? Just her, not you, right? And then occasionally they had me in there. And can she hold the dog? Because Dorothy held Toto a lot in the movie, and I'll be damned. I'm look up pictures, I'm like, they're right. And they like pose her just right because these people were freaking Wizard of Oz fanatics, okay? So this goes on all day, and it's fabulous. We win a second place in a scavenger hunt Emma goes into a cupcake shop to get a cupcake. I'm outside with the dog, and this woman walks out. I saw this woman walk in. She walks back out before Emma does, and she walks right up to me and she goes, I say this occasionally to parents, and they need to know it. Your daughter is delightful. She's very respectful, and she is just a very good little human being. And she actually said a lot more than that. I can't remember all the words. Um, and I looked and I said, yeah, we're really, really blessed. Thank you. And I tell you right now, the number of times I've heard that about our kids brings great joy. If we're talking about joy from someone buying one of our golf clubs and loving it, to have someone say to me, your kids are really good, brings great joy to my heart. And what I would say to my wife then, and I actually have said this to her, is how much I really appreciate everything she has done. All the doting, all the trips to the doctor, all of the good coaching, all of the mentoring, all of the, keeping them on the rails that she has done and showing them how to be a good person, that they've turned out the way they have. And I really, really love her and appreciate her for that.
Mike, there was something that
That's what I would say
happened.
to her.
Well, there was something that happened a couple years ago, man. That I saw it, and I saw a change in you. And I remember us out on the football field. I think it was practice, and you walked up, and I was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And you looked at me, and it was the same type of like attitude that you have towards everything, which was a positive attitude. And you were like, "Well, you went through some hard stuff," and
Yeah.
it really seemed to shift. It seemed to shift a perspective. Can you talk about that and then how it helped you to be able to look at life maybe a little bit different?
What was, hmm, it's funny. The first time I had that shift was the moment my children were born, because I realized my parents were long gone. They passed away years ago. And I realized, like, for the first time, like, no kidding, like, for real. We all kind of know it, but I, like, knew it to the core. I'm not going to live forever. That someday I'm not going to be here for my kids. And that was tough. Um, it made me miss my parents even more, because I would love to share my children and my wife with my parents, because they would love all of them. Um, and then, as you mentioned, it was actually, is that 2 years ago now or 3 years? Time flies, doesn't it, Kelly? It
Hmm.
was in October, I think 3 years ago. Had two blockages and had a couple stents put in. And again, it's like, okay, you really, really know you're not going to live forever. You're just not. Um, and the moments with your children, the moments with your friends and spouses, like, the it could be your last. I mean, not to sound morbid, but you just don't know, right? You walk outside, get hit by a bus. You don't want your last moment with your child to be a contentious one, or with a friend to be a contentious one. So I try my darndest. I'm not perfect at this, but I try to keep everything as cleaned up as possible, you know, because you just don't know when. Um, so that was a, yeah, that was a really big deal for me. Um, Second time that I realized, okay, now I really know this ain't gonna go on forever. So love them. I always say love them while you got them. I say that to my friends who, like, their parents getting older. I'm like, you love them while you got them. I got a
Yes.
buddy who's gonna go visit his mom, and I say, you go visit her as many times you possibly can. Right? Just go hang out with your mom. Yeah.
Well,
So
Mike,
you're right.
Mike,
That was a moment. Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy because I mean I could see you, and when you told me at first, you told me with a very positive attitude, but I could feel the gravity in you. I could feel that
Hmm.
gravity in you of thinking that, that moment possibly, could be there at any moment. And it was massive to me because, when you think about you have young kids, you don't think that way. You're not really in that space. You're like, oh man, if you're going through the terrible twos, which we didn't really have, they were all awesome. Um,
Yeah.
but you're going through something, you're like, man, I can't wait until this is over. But it helped me, like your situation helped me to realize that don't wish for something to be over. Just stay right where you are right now, which I think
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
I think is amazing, man.
Yeah.
The whole reason why I started the podcast is because of iconic people like yourself. And you're going to be like, no, I'm not an icon. Yes, you are. You're an iconic person because you're doing what you love. You're being rewarded for it. You're showing that you're human. In the fact that not everything is sunshine and rainbows, but the attitude that you have about it it, carries you through. And what I heard, and I don't know that you didn't say this in the exact words, but my mom used to say this to me all the time, that the lyrics to the song of if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. And she would tell me
Hmm.
this all the time, and I didn't realize that it was a framework for life and a blueprint for life, because you said it when I asked you, how do you get to do what you're passionate about? And what I heard is that sometimes it's about you falling in love with selling pencils because the effect that the pencil could have on somebody else, as opposed
Hmm.
to running off and saying that, I just want to dance in daisies and that's my passion. Maybe it's not about you finding that thing that you love. It's about falling in love with what you have right now and watching all that magic happen around you. And so that's, to me, why you're an icon. And that's the reason why I wanted to have you on the show. And I continually say to people, like, I have people on because they're amazing human beings who happen to do great things, not that they do great things. And that's the reason why I want to have them on. But I started the show for the kids, for Maddox and McKenna, because I wanted to take icons like you, and I wanted to show my kids that there's no idols in life, that there are icons, but they are human beings. And the common thread is that they have a phenomenal attitude and they have great work ethic. So what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? You know them both. And if you could use both of their names, it would be
Hmm.
awesome, Mike.
Yep. Yeah. So Maddox and McKenna, I would say to number one, be present in every moment of life. It may sound hard, right? But if you can strip away all the stuff that might be going on in your head and just be with the person who's right in front of you, and that person might want to be sharing joy, might have a problem to solve, might be a complete stranger, but your ability to be with them in any moment will make a huge difference for them and for you. And I would also say that you have spectacular parents and you should love them up. Even in those years between like age 16 to 21, when you think they're idiots, and then when you're about 24, 25, you're like, damn, they weren't so stupid. Um, Remember, in those tough years, your parents are good people and they're smart people and they have the best intentions for you, no matter what you might be thinking at the time. So be present and love your parents. That's my advice to you.
And he has a really long title, Maddox and McKenna. So if he has a long title like that and he tells you to do something, you need to do it. Mike, it is honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to. This is the first emperor that we've ever had on the show, and
Oh boy.
I want to thank you for that, for gracing us with that. But now's the time for our sponsors. You see them running across the ticker.
Yeah.
All of them have been riding with us since the very, very beginning of the show, and I want to thank everyone out there listening again, because for us to be in the top 1% globally of all podcasts, it's not because of any advertisements that we do. It's simply because every one of you as a listener is listening, watching, and sharing. And I want to thank you for that. And also, too, if you go on Apple Podcasts and you do a little review, you do a 5-star, that would be probably one of the greatest compliments. And also, my son, if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, do it, because my son thinks I'm cool because of it. He's like, Dad, how many subs you got? You got one more sub, Dad? And it just helps out with my credibility with my son. He's 11 years old and I want to stay cool in this world. Mike, it has been an absolute pleasure. I want to have you on again because I'm going to keep asking you questions alluding to the secrets in 2026, and I'm going to try and extract them from you as often as possible. But I would love to have you on the podcast more, because it has been an absolute pleasure, man. Spending the time, the wisdom that you have, and just the person who you are has been absolutely phenomenal, man.
Kelly, I really appreciate it. I mean, I'm going to gush on you for a second. From the moment I met you, right, and every moment I've spent with you, are a tremendous human being. And I really, really love who you are and in this world, and who you are for your kids, and who you are for everyone in the community. You're phenomenal. And you help me be present to like what's going on in my life. And I really, really appreciate that. I'm not always present to it, and now I am, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, you're an absolute superhero,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate you, Mike, and you're the emperor of your household. And for that, you are officially off the hot seat, man.